I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, we're sure to find happiness. And I guess all those things you've always
How do you define screwball? Like, what does the actual term mean?
The term derives from the baseball term, a screwball pitch.
Wow.
And a screwball pitch has an erratic trajectory to confuse the batter. And then that term screwball worked into becoming slang, as in you're screwy or you've got a screw loose. And so then it worked its way toward this genre of film in 1936 when a reviewer commented on the behavior of the characters in the film and said, this is a screwball comedy. The name stuck, and it is now the name of the genre.
That's wonderful. So what are the hallmarks of the genre? I mean, to me, it's kind of one of those, like, I know it when I see it. But what are the main tropes associated with this genre?
A screwball comedy is a satire and spoofs courtship, marriage, traditional institutions, and the wealthy. The action centers around a couple. They are usually mismatched and often from different social classes. There is sexually charged antagonism between the two in lieu of a sexual relationship, which was prohibited by censorship rules. The woman is on equal footing with the man. She gives as good as she gets, and the dialogue is fast, and it is witty, and it's not sentimental.
I think sexually charged antagonism would make a pretty cool band name. I mean, that's a movie I want to see. So what led to the rise of these movies, of this genre?
Primarily, there were the factors of social, economic, and political events in the United States in the 1920s and 30s that directly led to this genre of film. It was one of the most interesting periods of U.S. history. It was the best of times and the worst of times. What was fantastic and the good news going on was it was the machine age, innovations in technology, planes, trains, and automobiles. People were on the move. Art Deco was spread across the country as a very stylized design and architecture, interior design, cars, fabrics, upholsteries. And women were experiencing freedoms they had never had. It starts with the fact that they were allowed to vote, then permitted to drive vehicles. Their clothes became relaxed. Instead of a binding corset, which actually inhibits breathing, and with a straight skirt that inhibits the ability to walk in a normal stride. New clothing was looser, more comfortable. You didn't need assistance to get dressed and undressed. And then women transitioned into wearing pants. Social mores with women were also relaxing. They were drinking, smoking, dancing, and sexual mores were relaxing for women. In addition, for the film industry, the advent of sound transformed the film industry. So there was so much happening that was exciting. I mean, the United States was a manufacturing and exporting powerhouse. We were the envy of the world at this time. However, it was these factors, it was a confluence with some very bad, worst of times. And it started with the stock market crash of 1929. From there, banks closed. From there, manufacturers, with the credit freezes, they had to close, throwing millions into unemployment. So you have people that are homeless then, tent cities across the country. It was terrible. And you had 3 Dust Bowls in the 1930s. So, and that exacerbated the Depression, because all those people, they not only their crops were ruined, they had to relocate, which they came to California primarily, because we are a mecca of agriculture, but there were not jobs. We could not absorb all those people. So that exacerbated the Depression because it drove wages lower and people suffered more.
It's interesting how much you see of the Great Depression as the background in this film, from, you know, the woman that faints on the bus, and then, you know, even at the end, the train car goes by with all the hobos waving, but that first auto camp, you know, that tracking shot when she walks through and you know, to get to the showers, but it's very much the setting of the movie, of the spoiled heiress who doesn't want to eat her steak that starts out with.
Wasn't that just deplorable conduct? That when people are starving and she's throwing a tray with a steak over, I mean, that was criminal.
Yeah. So how are these movies received at the time? I mean, this is still such a beloved genre. How did it land with audiences at the time?
1930 audiences flocked to screwball comedies because for them the escapist themes gave them a respite from the suffering and deprivations of their lives. And all these farcical situations and laughs, I mean, look at all the laughs we got today here. And, it, you know, just to have a little joy and a little laughter. Also, the audiences of the 30s, like today's audiences, were fascinated with the wealthy. And because screwball comedy satirizes the rich, they got to see how the rich live, but also watch them get knocked down a peg or two, and that felt good.
That's my favorite genre. Like Succession, Triangle of Sadness. It's evergreen. So how do you differentiate it from romantic comedy? What are those main differences?
A romantic comedy, they are different. Thank you for asking, because they are often confused. And a romantic comedy is a traditional love story. Boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl again. And the characters are earnest, they're sincere, the plots involve melodrama and sentiment, and there is no employment of irony. I think where the confusion comes in is because screwball comedy and romantic comedy share a few similar elements, and that is that both genres involve relational conflicts, both have witty dialogue, and both have happy endings. And I think that's what's led to the confusion with audiences and even film scholars.
So talk to me a little bit about the quintessential screwball comedy heroine. How do you describe that, how is that received? As an aside, that is why I love this genre so much, is that it's focused on these intense women in pants talking loudly. Tell me about that.
The screwball heroine was groundbreaking, first and foremost because she drove the plot of the story, and that was unheard of. Always the women were on the sidelines. They were the prize to be won after the man went and he did his sword fights and he killed the gladiators, and then she would be passively, and then her side of the story would be, well, I'm so thrilled that you've selected me. And a screwball comedy is so different. It's focused on the woman driving the plot, and the screwball heroine is self-determined. She rebels against convention. She overturns normal courtship rules. She put the romantic love story, really just flips it on its head.
What about the men of the genre? Is there any kind of overarching theme with those characters, you think?
Oh yes, and we saw it with today's film. The man in a screwball is actually an anti-hero. He exhibits very different qualities. First of all, he doesn't dominate the woman. Very unusual in film. Also, he has these anti-heroic attributes, and they are different through the spectrum of the movies. But taking today's film, for instance, let's think about Peter Warren. Peter is making breakfast. Peter is having the clothes pressed. Peter is taking care of the bed, setting them up. And Peter is the sex object. Who does the striptease in this film? It's not Ellie, it's Peter the man. And that is very different.
How do you think Clark Gable felt about that?
Well, I don't know. It was obviously well received. Box office hit, critical hit. He won an Academy Award for it. And I think it's one of his best roles, along with Gone with the Wind. And principally because he's not playing a hero. He's playing someone who's vulnerable and someone who's accessible. Because let's say, as we look at his character, he is fired from his job, he's unemployed, he has no status, he's broke, he's got a big mouth, and he makes a fool of himself over and over again. But those qualities, as portrayed by Clark Gable, make him very relatable and very likable, and you're rooting for him. And it's unfortunate that Clark Gable chose not to explore that. He felt comfortable in the traditional territory, obviously.
Yeah, he's just so terrific in it, though. It's just in the chemistry between them. It's just amazing. Let's talk a little bit about Frank Capra.
Capra, of course, he's one of the titans, not only in the screwball genre, but just across Hollywood's golden age. And he won multiple Academy Awards. He made a number of screwball comedies in his career. So it was a genre he felt very comfortable with. But what makes Frank Capra unique in his screwball comedies is he brought out motifs that other directors did not. He celebrated the common man, and he also worked in the concept that people are basically good, and the concept of synergy. And that is that two people united into one are much stronger and do much more than when they are single. And so for those reasons, his films are very distinctive because of these motifs, and a term has been coined, Capresque,
Right.
that when films exhibit those motifs.
Interesting. And he had, Richard Raskin was his co-writer.
Robert Riskin.
Robert
Yes.
Riskin. Thank you.
Very close. And he was his longtime writing partner. They made 9 movies together, and they had such a fantastic working relationship. What's interesting is, as I researched Frank Capra and researched Robert Riskin, I concluded that these motifs that I just discussed that have been coined Caparesque are actually more aligned with Robert Riskin's sensibilities than Frank Capra's.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, like they say, filmmaking is a collaborative effort, and the one thing that really blew me away watching this today is the cinematography. When Claudette Colbert is in the hay and there's like the kind of the dust rising, it gives me goosebumps. The rain on the windows in the hotel.
Yes.
Motel.
Joseph
Auto camp.
Joseph Walker, the cinematographer, he made 145 films, and he was very prolific, as well as he invented 20 camera-related patents. And he had a very difficult assignment in this film because most of the scenes are filmed at night. Nighttime cinematography is quite difficult to achieve, but didn't he handle this assignment with aplomb, because it is so moody and atmospheric, as you mentioned, the rain, the shadows, there are figures on the beds, and they're talking. It's so evocative and romantic. And when they're walking along the lake, the cinematography is absolutely breathtaking. And to me, when I watch it, it captures Americana, his cinematography. I look at this film and I see an Edward Hopper painting. And he did an incredible job with it. And even if you aren't into screwball comedy, just to be able to see the visuals of this film and let it wash over you, worthwhile.
It is amazing. Well, just to wrap things up, anything else about the film that you'd like to share?
I think we've covered it. The screwball heroine of this film, Claudette Colbert, she was very unusual, and she does have some unique characteristics from virtually every other screwball heroine. She was quite a gifted comedian. She was elegant, sophisticated. I mean, that role, she is just perfect in the role. What she is not is a physical comedian. Virtually every other screwball heroine is physical. Her characters are more observers.
I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, we're sure to find happiness. And I guess all those things you've always pined for. Gee, I'd like to see you looking swell, baby. Diamond bracelets, Woolworth doesn't sell, baby. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby, I can't give you anything but love.